Namaste, astrology adventurers. Today I want to talk about the double transit effect of Jupiter and Saturn. This is amazing. You do not want to miss this. This one technique will transform how you work with transits. I'm your host, Paul Manley, and you're watching Light on Vedic Astrology. In Vedic astrology, we work with 9 planets. So which ones are the most important to follow by transit? Well, here's a guideline. Start with the slowest moving transits. And that means Saturn, Rahu and Ketu, and Jupiter. Saturn lasts for 2.5 years in a sign, Rahu and Ketu 1.5 years, and Jupiter 1 year in a sign, approximately. So why slow-moving transits? Why are we focusing on these? Because they have the greatest sustained impact. They're going to be felt the most. They're going to have the most significance in our life. So what is this double transit of Jupiter and Saturn? Well, it's simple. Saturn, when it's in a sign, is going to make its aspects onto 3 houses, right? The 3rd house aspect from itself, the 7th house aspect from itself, and the 10th house from itself. Likewise, a Jupiter is going to have its aspects, 5th house from itself, the 7th house from itself, and the 9th house from itself. The sign that both Saturn and Jupiter are aspecting, that's a double transit. And it can be more than one. They can be both aspecting 2, sometimes even 3 signs or houses. So right now, the double transit, it's on the sign of Virgo. As soon as Saturn moved into Pisces on March 30th, the double transit changed from the sign of Scorpio to the sign of Virgo. So Saturn as aspecting Virgo from Pisces, Jupiter from Taurus is aspecting Virgo. So the double transit is on Virgo. But actually, the double transit changes in just a couple of days on May 14th, when Jupiter goes into the sign of Gemini. So this is just a couple of days. And then the double transit will shift to the sign of Sagittarius. So this is what I recommend, following where they are both aspected. This is the double transit effect. And why is this important? My Jyotish guru, K.N. Rao, says, when anything significant is happening to anyone, Jupiter and Saturn in transit play a pivotal role. So it can represent progress. The key word that I use is progress, because that's what you see. Like if the double transit is aspecting your 10th house or 10th lord or the sun, then it could be an excellent time to get a job. Jupiter and Saturn, the double transit is aspecting the 7th house, the 7th lord, or Venus. Then it could be a time for starting a relationship or getting married. Likewise, the 5th house, 5th lord, or Jupiter if we're looking for childbirth. So these events, any event, can be enhanced or can be an area of progress. Usually that's positive progress, meaning that we're moving towards something we want. But sometimes it represents an area of letting go also. And that also is progress, meaning it's time to let go of that relationship. And so it can also, another key word would be just an area of focus. Things, events, circumstances related to that house or sign that both Saturn and Jupiter are looking to is going to be significant. So it needs to be watched. Okay. So why Saturn and Jupiter? I mean, what is this? Well, they deliver a 1-2 punch. And it's when the opposites, Jupiter and Saturn are opposites. Saturn is contractive, Jupiter is expansive. Saturn represents slow, Jupiter represents fast or growing outward. Saturn represents structures and foundations and getting things in order. Jupiter represents inspiration and ideas. Saturn is perspiration, Jupiter is inspiration. This growth potential along with organizing potential, combining. So it's like you could think of Saturn as the roots of a tree and Jupiter as the upward growing branches and leaves. So they work in a symbiotic relationship. They're helping progress and grow a tree. But this is similar to what we do when we're starting a business. We have to get the structure, the foundation, the kind of non-glamorous things out of the way, like, I don't know, getting a business license. And then we do what you really want to do, what inspires us. So this combining of vision, Jupiter's vision, inspiration, and Saturn gives the practicality to actually make it happen. So there's a great quote by Henry David Thoreau. He says, if you have built castles in the air, that's like Jupiter having these great ideas. Your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them. So the foundations are Saturn. So grounding this castle in the air, giving it structure so that it actually works, that it lasts. So that's what Saturn's interested in, is making things work, making them last, making them durable. And so they really do work well together. And the natural neutrals are not inimical to one another. So it can simply, the double transit can represent significant event related to house, lord, karaka, representing that event that you are hoping to have happen. There are 4 permutations of the double transit. Generally, they represent progress. At any given time, Saturn and Jupiter are having some relationship. One is predominating or dominating while the other recedes, or they're working together equally, beneficially, or working together inimically. So this is described figuratively in K.N. Rao's book, Ups and Downs in Career, where he talks about the double transit effect. So the 4 permutations are when Saturn blesses and Jupiter gives, when Saturn frowns and Jupiter protects, when Saturn torments and Jupiter withdraws protection, and when Saturn and Jupiter combine to destroy. So generally, I'm talking about the double transit as Saturn blessing and Jupiter blessing. That's beneficial forward moving progress. This is what I see predominantly happening. Likewise, Jupiter goes direct, Saturn retrograde. And so that also is a way where we can see this predominating, receding movement of Saturn and Jupiter. So 80% of the time, the double transit is in effect. It's taking place in a sign or more than one sign. And so the only time that it doesn't happen at all, when there's no double transit, is when Jupiter is in the 12th house from Saturn, or when Jupiter is in the 8th house from Saturn. Otherwise, they're in effect. And that means game on. So we got to pay attention to where the double transit is. And you'll be amazed. This is a very reliable technique, reliable method. It will serve you well. I guarantee it. So we'll stop here. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Namaste.